So today I want to talk about the topic of business ethics when it comes to the market of card games and collectibles. So what do I mean by this, right? So if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see me constantly talk about the topic of how people use kind of like these like very scammy type tactics in order to sell their items. Can you really call these things officially scams? Not really, but we kind of live in an age where everything's considered a hustle now, even if you're trying to scam people out of their money and you're using really scummy ways to make these sales. And what are some examples of these, right? I talk about these all the time. All these not for sale, not for trade posts, specifically in the market of Weiss Schwartz, because it's so apparent and it's so very obvious when they're doing, right? And I tell people, you pay attention to, it's always not for sale, not for trade. I'm just showing off my collection and all these things. But then the same people are selling these same cards, grading these same cards, and trying to, pretty much drive attention to these items that they talk about to show off and bring attention to, because they're trying to sell these items, whether immediately on a different platform or somewhere down the line or using a different account. But what their main purpose of saying these not for sale, not for trade items is to bring attention to it so people feel like they'll want to desire it. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is because it's so common for people to just say, I see this all the time, right? Everyone tries to defend these type of business practices by saying, oh, the market's just going to do what the market's going to do. People will just buy whatever they want. If they'll buy it, they'll buy it. If they don't want to buy it, then they don't want to buy it, right? It sounds so nice on the surface, but when you think about it, is it really true though? This statement is pretty flawed, right? Because these people are manipulating other people by making these not for sale, not for trade posts. And there's other types of manipulation when it comes to this as well. Recently, the newest type of manipulation I see in these markets and these communities is when they try to play the victim card, where these people are actively using scummy tactics, scam tactics, shill tactics, but they'll play the victim card, right? And what do I mean by that? Previously, you'll see a lot of people getting angry over, graded cards, investors, or whatever it is. But in general, most people just don't care anymore. And it is what it is, right? People just accepted that all these not for sale, not for trade posts are just, people are just shilling and it is going to be what it is. And the people that don't care just ignore it or block it. But you'll see that these type of people that are shilling these items, that are doing these sort of like scummy, scammy type of sales tactics, they're the people that are still talking about, oh, not for sale, not for trade. I know everyone is, still against, trading and selling these graded cards and stuff, right? So you see these type of people playing a sort of victim mentality to defend the type of actions that they do. So even if no one is attacking them, no one is going after them, they'll automatically place up a defense as this kind of like a get out of jail for free card, as if it releases them from any sort of responsibility for doing these shill posts. So in these shill posts, you'll see them talking about how, I know everyone is hating these graded cards, but I just want to show off my collection. And again, right, these are the same people that are selling their graded cards on eBay, selling them on different platforms and things like that. And this type of victim mentality is a type of psychological manipulation that people use, where they'll defend themselves by playing as someone that's defenseless, as if other people are attacking them. But in this case, when you pay attention to the Weiss Schwartz market, no one is really going out of their way to attack these people. It's just like, all right, no one likes graded cards, whatever it is, right? They might leave like a laugh emoji or whatever. And to give like a real life example, you could draw parallels to people playing victim mentality, even in relationships. Maybe you encountered someone in your life that, even if they do something wrong, automatically they'll play the victim to like, as if they're the ones that are suffering, although that they're the ones that are abusing other people. Especially when it comes to things like having arguments with other people, right? Automatically they'll just play the victim card. So without going too in depth about like these scams and shill tactics, again, I mentioned in my other videos, if you watch it, I talk about how people shill bid on eBay. I talk about how people, shill their sales. I talk about how people pretty much do all these not for sale, not for trade posts to, pretty much bump up the value of their own collections. And then I also talk about how these type of people pretty much constantly try to drive interest to these certain areas, like the holy grail cards and whatnot. And to kind of really show why I find this unethical and how to show that it's unethical is I'll kind of relate this back to my experience in working in finance and working in investments. And you'll kind of get an idea once you have real life examples of these things, right? And I know a lot of people try to say, oh, it's just cardboard, it's just a hobby or whatever it is. But again, right, I want to bring these topics up because there's a lot of people that buy into these things assuming that as a type of investment because all these hype people, all these shillers are trying to bring attention to these items to make it seem like you can make a lot of money off of it. And they give a lot of bad information out there because of these type of, scammy tactics that try to make people believe that everything's going to go to the moon. So to just kind of give you an idea of what someone does when they work in securities and when they work in investments and sitting down with financial advisements with people, individuals like clients, like people like you or me, when you sit down with someone and you recommend people investments, right? You learn about them, you learn about their finances, and then based on what they tell you and what you learn about them, you'll be able to give them a suitable recommendation on what type of investments would be best for them based on the individual, and it's different from every person one to another, right? And that's technically how it should work. And this is where ethics comes into play and why I kind of really didn't like the industry in general. And there's a lot of times when I see certain people do certain things, it really rubs me the wrong way. And it's just one of those things that I find really unacceptable. So as someone that's licensed in securities and licensed to do things like mutual funds or whatever it is, right? So when you're recommending investments to people, depending on what kind of firm you work for, what kind of company you work for, there might be certain incentives for, financial advisors to be able to sell you certain funds in whatever company, right? So if I tell you, oh, BlackRock is good, or I tell you Vanguard is good, or I tell you whatever mutual fund in whatever company I work in is good, a lot of times what you'll see is, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in these industries that sell you certain things because they make more money off of it. Rather than when your job and your principle and your ethics should be what's best for your client and what's best for the person you're dealing with, there's a lot of people that take shortcuts that really don't have ethics, and there's a lot of companies that don't have ethics where, you know what, rather than me giving you something that would suit you the best and fits you the best, pretty much, that, should be the best recommendation, I'm going to give you something that what pays me the most and what I get the most commission off of, or what my company makes the most money off of you from. So rather than investing in something that maybe might be more conservative, a type of investment, right? I'm going to have you invest in something that's more, risky and volatile instead, because I'm going to make more money off of it. So an example of this is like elderly people, right? Quite often, a lot of elderly people get scammed when it comes to investments. Well, you can't really say scammed, right? But they get put into the wrong type of investments because it's what pays whoever's recommending it to them the most, and they get the most commission off of it, or just whatever the company is pushing at the moment, right? So it might be something that's not suitable for an elderly customer or elderly client, and they end up recommending something that's more volatile, even though why would you recommend something that's more aggressive in a volatile portfolio for an elderly customer when they might be like 70, 80 years old, or they're already retired and they might just need something that just pays them out in passive income, or just, through interest payments or things like bonds, for example. And tying this concept back to ethics, right? You see how this is wrong, right? And you tie that back to collectibles and card games where we find it so innocent and whatnot. There's all these scams like mystery boxes, raffles, things like, shill posting, shill bidding. And again, we go back to how people try to justify it. It's like, oh, it's just a business. People are trying to make money. But you know what? People are trying to make money, but you have to think about the people that are spending the money, and the people that you're scamming, and the people that you're taking advantage of, and the people that you're manipulating. Because they're people too. And just because you want to make a quick buck, I still find that highly unethical and just morally wrong. And running that parallel back to when it came to investments and me working there, I'll give you an example, right? Whenever I sat down with elderly customers, if it didn't make sense for them to transfer their portfolio to me, if most of the time their portfolio is just very hands off, and even if they like me and even if they're willing to transfer their portfolio for us to manage, I would not recommend it if it didn't make sense for them. It's like, hey, you know what? You're paying like almost like no fees wherever it is, and most of the stuff when you're at a certain age is pretty hands off, and you really don't. Some people just don't need a managed account, and they don't need to pay all these fees where they're transferring, they're paying taxes from transferring certain things. It gets really complicated, right? But sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Even if I don't make money off of it, I'm still going to make the right recommendation and I'm going to do the right thing. But not everyone does that. How I see it is that I treat people like my own family members, right? And what I mean by that is, if I wouldn't want the same thing done to my family members, why would I do the same thing to you? Why would I take advantage of you when I wouldn't want the same thing done to my family members? And this is why I find a lot of these like shill tactics, shill sales, and all these not for sale, not for page posts so kind of disgusting, and especially the fact that they're trying to play these victim mentalities and try to defend themselves, like, oh, I'm just trying to like show it off and all this other bullshit, right? I find it really disgusting because when you're taking advantage of people and you're making money off of a lot of these people, again, right? Most people are not rich. Most people are not well off. And a lot of people are just into these hobbies to collect and to have fun. And especially with what's going on for like the past few years, everyone is struggling. Even if it's not the past few years, everyone is struggling and most people are not making a lot of money. And yet you're going to use all these scammy tactics and shill tactics to take advantage of other people. I don't think it's like a right thing to do, and you could just play it off as just like, oh, it's just cardboard and it's just business. And, I don't think that's acceptable. And I also find it even more despicable is the fact that a lot of these people that are able to buy these cases, buy these like, a mass amount of these products and then end up, shilling these sales to sell for way higher than what it should be. Yeah, okay, the market's going to do what it's going to do, but that means that these people are financially to a certain point where they're able to afford these things, right? But they're trying to take advantage of the people that can't afford to buy these cases, can't afford to buy these certain things, and trying to prey on the fact that people are FOMOing on these things and trying to pretty much psychologically manipulate people in order to fall into these traps to spend money on these things. When I live by, you should never punch down and you should always punch up, right? And what that means is that you should never take advantage of people that are less fortunate. Is just basic human morals. And I know everyone tries to defend like, oh, it's just a hustle. Everyone's trying to make money. Even if these people are not well off, it's just a hustle and trying to make money or whatever it is. Same as drawing a parallel to me working in finance and investments, and whatever I do, I could make as much money as I want to if I just use all these scummy tactics to do it. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because seriously, who raised these types of people? I grew up in a not well off family, and even if we're not well off, my father taught me, to do the right thing and be a decent human being. Like, even if you're not well off, you have to have pride, you have to have dignity, and you have to have principles. You're going to do right by others, and you're going to want to treat others how you want to be treated. Why would you try to take advantage of other people who are also not as fortunate as others as well, too? So it's wrong regardless, right? If you're more fortunate than others and you're taking advantage of the less fortunate, that's wrong. If you're one of the less fortunates and you're calling it, oh, it's just a hustle, and you're taking advantage of other people in the same predicament as you, that's also wrong as well. And that's just pretty much my rant. And I'll just leave you with this quote. And I think it's one of those like really good quotes out there, as much as I hate all these type of inspirational quotes. And it's that if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And pretty much what it means is that you don't want to be a selfish person. You never want to be the person that wants to push down on other people and hold other people down, right? You want to be the type of person that lifts other people up, because when you're that type of person, you'll go a lot further in life. And plus, you'll be able to go to sleep at night knowing that you're doing right by other people. And I think that's something that everyone should live by. Thank you for watching and have a great day.